there, Nasipa here from Intentional Living, and welcome to this segment of Intentional Relationships. This is my partner here, Omega, and we are here discussing another intentional relationship topic for this week. And this week we are speaking about keeping score in relationships.
Keeping score in relationships.
So, Omega, what do you think this is, or what do you define as keeping score in relationships?
I would say keeping score in relationship is basically when like your partner does something, whether right or wrong, you just keep like a record of it. That way you can later bring it up and say, hey, this is what you've done that is wrong. Most of the time when people keep score, it's towards the negative, but they do keep score towards the positive as well. But it's mainly just keeping track of like, okay, this is the amount of right things this person has done, so I have to like win by doing more right things, and this is the amount of wrong things this person has done, and well, I'm innocent, I haven't done anything wrong, so they lose, so the score is 2-0 type of thing. That's what people do in relationships. Generalizing, of course, but yeah, that's what people do. Yeah,
generalizing. I would agree with you. It has that sort of competitive feel about it. Keeping score is that, I think we grow up with it in childhood with siblings. It comes into play a lot, playing mom's, dad's favorite. That sort of competitive nature grows with us from that sort of growing up and grooming, and it goes into schools, high school, lower grades. What grade did you get versus your sisters, your brothers? All of that cultivates this competitive edge that we all innately somehow have within us to compete with one another. And when that comes into the relationship space, you get to see the different sort of aspects of a person of when they start now keeping tabs of what you did right, what you did wrong. It doesn't necessarily, like you said, quite correct, it doesn't have to necessarily be the wrong perceived wrong things that the partner has done. It's also the good, but I want to exceed, I want to be the exceller, I want to be the cherry topper, so I will keep score so that I'm able to pay back and do even better than you in the good ways. And in the bad ways, where the sort of sabotage of the relationships we see happen is when now that takes on a negative frame of like, 1, 2, 3, on this day back in 2007 you did this, you said it this way, and I recall it, and now here it is again. Here's the evidence of you keep doing this to me. So I resonate with that also when you're saying it could be all positive and it could be negative, and it's up to us to actually pick these patterns up within ourselves and manage it within ourselves personally and individually before we take on the relationship frame of pointing it out in another person. So how has your experience been with keeping score in this relationship?
Well, we don't always keep score, but I'm a person who has a decent memory, if I put it lightly. So I'm able to remember things very well, things that were said, the day, what was happening, and probably even the weather. I can remember very well and bring up, but I try my best to not use that ability to sort of like keep a record, but there are things that I do keep records of. But what I'd say is like really, really important is to not keep score, to actually be in the present moment and not always be recalling the past to sort of assess the person, to always compete and try beat them on something. Mm-hmm. So I'd say, that's the most important thing for a couple. But as an individual, it's very difficult to resist not keeping score. Like it's difficult to like say, I'm not gonna write down in my head what they said or what they did. I think if you do fall into that trap as a person, try not to bring up the score that you've kept, but rather really look at the person as who they are at that present moment in time. I think that's very, very important. But it is irresistible. We all want to keep score and sort of like exceed our partners one way or the other, which leads into like competitiveness between people. But sometimes it's not always like things like you gave a better gift or you said something hurtful. It can also be just like being competitive. People can be very competitive instead of being supportive, which is very much damaging. So keeping score leads to being competitive against your partner, which is obviously no longer a partnership, but like some sort of tennis match, which is something that I think relationships would be best served to avoid.
And I agree with your point there. It starts on taking on competitive nature, and then you find that I must now exceed in my career so that I shine you in yours, regardless of whether our career trajectory are the same or if we're in the same industry. It's like I need to now step up and do my best so that I can be best, even though I'm not bringing in home the bacon or like I'm the man of the house, but you still must know that I'm still holding my own, and I might need you, but I don't really need you. That sort of frame. So it's quite a good thing, because there has to be some sort of competitive edge in a relationship, but a playful sort of competition.
Playful one.
When it takes on that sort of dangerous sort of tone, it's when things now start to get really, really hectic and really going towards the hills in terms of bad. What I would say about our relationship and keeping score, I have a memory of a goldfish. That is something that I will have to say from a very young age. In childhood with my siblings, keeping score was something that I would try to do but just fizzle out completely and miserably fail in. So I took on that frame quite strongly in relationships of not keeping scores, especially of the things that I had found hurtful. I made it a real intentional point to just, when I say I'm over it, it's gone. It's completely gone, and I'm not now recalling it and using it as evidence towards something else that's now happened. I think that's the low blow most relationship phase that is really uncalled for. Even though you, as a person, that is front of mind to say, oh, this behavior correlates with something that's happened in the past, your mind will automatically go there. But choose, like Omega said, to deal with what's going on here and now based on facts that are here and now, versus you going back and drawing up a lot of things that you could draw upon in the past, which really will be detrimental to the relationship, rather than just focusing on the here and now. So most importantly for me would be, let there not be scorekeeping per se, but use whatever it is that you've learned about the person as some sort of gauge. It's not the front of mind sort of a thing that you judge them upon, but it's some sort of gauge as to, this is this person's behavior pattern in the past. These are the things that might happen in the future, but I'm still seeing them with the present eye of knowing that this is my partner and we're building something together and we have each other's best interest at heart, and we're moving forward dealing with whatever's happening here based on what's happening here, and maybe perhaps use whatever's in the past as some sort of, okay, there's a pattern here. How do we solve this? Rather than you did one, you did two, you did three, and then it becomes like a back and forth tennis match, like Mr. Omega here says. So that is it for this week. Is there anything else that you'd like to say?
Don't keep score.
Well, it's a good match does keep score. All of the good matches in all the sports do keep score, but let it be really not really that detrimental to what you are building in a relationship.
Keep it balanced.
Keep it balanced. Okay, so that's it. Bye bye from us. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.